Hey team, Justin here from Pool Solar. So the age-old question, what is better to heat the pool, heat pump or solar heating? So the real question you need to ask here is like, what is the outcome? And then what we want to do is build a solution back to that rather than going, that is better or that is better, because they're quite separate heating source. So what we usually do is we sort of ask a few questions. So what is your season? How long do you want to swim? And if you said, I want to swim from October to April and don't mind spending money, then we'd say, cool, put a heat pump on. Make sure you got your 4mm heat guard thermal blanket. Critical to the heating formula, you trap the heat by putting the lid on. The heat cycles within the pool, stops evaporation, etc., etc. And if you said, I potentially want to get in, and then the target temperature for both is going to be, let's call it 28 as an average. So the heat pump isn't going to want to work when it's cool air, because it needs to take the air in through the unit, strips out the warm, puts the warm into the pool, and then expels the cold. So placement of heat pump is critical. Make sure you don't put it anywhere near let's say like a deck area. You just certainly don't want it near the pool. You don't want it blowing cold air over the pool or expelling, so be quite conscious about that. And then we've got the other side of the spectrum, solar. And if you said, well, I potentially want to get in September at mid to low 20s, and even sooner, I think we can certainly see low 20s in August, end of August. So let's say you want to get in August and I want to get out in May, and I want a very cheap cost to run, then solar is the solution. And if you said, look, I want an extended season on top of solar, so I definitely want to be in August and I definitely want to be out, let's say in June, then the heat pump solar combo is definitely where you want to be. In my opinion, this is how I would do it. I would do an oversized pool solar system on the roof. So we actually don't care about the size of the pool, we care about the size of the roof. The roof can generate very large energy. So overfill the roof, chuck a 4mm thermal heat guard blanket on the pool, and I think you would be happy with that for the most part. Like you wouldn't, there'll be times when it's cold, the pool's not going to be hot, but you're not going to want to swim anyway, right? So even if the pool was 30, you're not going to want to get in the water, especially with a very cold outside ambient air temp. The way I would do it, and this is what I would recommend, I would say put an aggressively oversized solar on the roof, use that to drive the energy, and then chuck a thermal blanket on, and if you need it as a backup, throw gas, right? Gas is actually cheaper to run for those small bursts, as in when you needed it, heat on demand, no problem. And then the cost to run solar is probably around $450 per year. Cost to run a heat pump for the same season as pool solar, you're talking, so if we're talking like for length of season, probably talking around $5,000. This is in New Zealand, this is at 30 cents a kilowatt hour. And then we get another option, which is people that will install PV solar to drive the heat pump, which is an incredibly inefficient spend. You certainly overcapitalize, and the heat pump consumes very large amounts of energy. So, let's say a 10 kilowatt system for a household, you've got to work out what the generated seasonal generated amount of energy, and then you got to work out what you consumed for the whole household, including, if you're running vehicles, make sure the whole household is included in that, because when you do turn the heat pump on, it's big energy, and that can range anywhere from 30,000 kilowatt hours to through to whatever it could be. It depends on the size of the pool, depends on the size of the heat pump, the appliance. Now, solar length of lifetime, somewhere in around the 20-year average, probably longer. I've been installing systems in New Zealand for around 20 years with Rick. Rick's had the business a lot longer than that, so we still service his solar systems now, and they're still going strong. So call it 20 years. An appliance, so gas heaters really do have a short lifetime, aggressive heat, very gnarly way to heat water, and still has the same energy requirement to heat the water, so it's a large amount of energy even using gas, but gas can just knock it out of the park, no worries. And it's probably going to last, I would say, around a six-year average, maybe longer depending on usage, but probably not much longer. So be ready to change that out consistently. And the appliance can be smaller. You definitely need a flue on that, or make sure it's like vented well, and it's got nice clear airflow. Get rid of all the expelling air. Heat pump, probably I would say a 6 to 7 year average ballpark, depending on usage, depending on size of the pool, depending where it is. So there's a few variables. Now the speed of heat is incredibly slow, so it takes days to do what solar can do with sun and what gas can do in hours, right? So and when you look at those performances, then the question you have to ask yourself is what is better. So if your roof in even call it July in Napier, which was what we had a couple of weeks ago, July, Napier, 40 degrees on the roof, right? Pool was 9 degrees, so we take this energy on the roof and then we thin the water down, heat it, and then send it back to the pool, and we're getting between 8 and 9 degree lifts in Auckland today. So it's I think it's around the 9th of August. It's a pretty crappy day today. There's probably not going to be too much in there, but it is going to crank, right? So even like a 8 degree lift on a winter's day, out of control. And then we sort of hit sunny weather, so end of August, September with solar, and then you're in the money. It's like 26 to 28 degrees, thermal blanket, 3 times oversized. You're laughing all the way through till May. So coming back to the heat pump season, so let's say 3 days to get it off ambient base in October, maybe 2 days. In September, definitely 3 days, probably more depending on how long the filtration cycle is. And then you've got to maintain the heat ongoing all the time. So it is running, it is continuous, well, not continuously running, but it's running a lot to keep the temperature high. Thermal blanket, so the heat guard thermal blanket, imperative with a heat pump. Cost to run or outlay, even if you're running a PV system, you certainly don't want to be wasting valuable energy just by leaving the cover off and heating the pool with a heat pump, which you can do, but it is a waste. And if we're evaporating chemicals, water, so valuable money, and then expecting the heat pump just to really work and heat, it's not a nice way to heat. So that's why we would use a heat pump as a secondary or a bottom out. So we don't want it to go below 26, we just want it to stop at 26 and it just sort of maintain in the day, and that can be overnight, and then in the daytime solar will just come in and then heat it from 26 to 32 within hours, like a couple of hours, bang, you're at 32, which is on par. This is why we say it's on par with gas, so they certainly can do the same thing. But any questions and comments, just leave them in the comment section below. We'll come back to you, or email us. Our details are in the description. But when we're looking at pool heating, like we're pool heating experts, we aren't exclusive to any one brand or product. We don't just install heat pumps, we don't just install solar. We have a range of solar, we sell a range of heat pumps. And with a heat pump, when you're sizing, we oversize. Yes, you can buy a $5,000 9 kilowatt heat pump, but for a 40,000 litre pool, it's not going to work, right? We get this all the time. Hey, I can, why are you quoting me a $10, $12, $14, $16,000 heat pump? It's because it is sized correctly for the pool, right? So while yes, you can buy a $5,000 heat pump, yes, you can put it on, yes, you will run it, and you will pay a lot of money to run it, but you just do the numbers. 9 kilowatt heat pump to run a 40,000 or even 30,000 pool, the numbers aren't there. You get a short season, it's running all the time. And then we look at pool solar. So if the roof is above 40 degrees and we've triple sized or even double the surface area, we're talking anywhere between 30 and 50 kilowatt output performance, right? So when we put it on par with heat pump, giant heat, a COP probably of around 30, 35. So very high coefficient performance rating. Now, when we put it into heat pump terms, we're talking, you're probably going to put a maximum 28 kilowatt heat pump, as the largest domestic sized heat pump on the pool. What are we talking? COP of anywhere between, let's say 5 and let's say maximum 15, right? It depends what it is. Inverter, dual fan, blah, blah, blah. So, when we look at those two numbers, and solar's really outperforming cheap cost to run. Heat pump versus solar to install, I would say pound for pound, like, if we're talking a 3-time oversized or even double surface area is still cheaper than a correctly sized heat pump, right? So people will say, again, I come back to this $5,000 heat pump because we've had it quite a bit lately. Hey, I can buy a $5,000 heat pump. I think I'll just get that. Now, the problem with that is, super inefficient, running all the time, and it's just killing, 30 cents per kilowatt hour. It's just killing money, like, and it's very hard, and there's a limit that the $5,000 9 kilowatt heat pump's going to generate. It sort of hits the ceiling and then it sort of stops. And some people say, oh, it doesn't work in October, it won't work in August, won't work in September, maybe turns on in August, which is warm anyway, and then it gets you through till April, which is warm anyway. So you got to ask yourself, how well is that working, right? How efficient is the heat pump at that particular time? So correctly sizing appliances, and even if we're not selling a heat pump or a solar system to you guys, like, happy to help, happy to answer any questions. And if this video doesn't help, comment below. Let's answer those questions and give us feedback as well. I'm sure there's people out there that say, oh no, that's a load of garbage, you don't know what you're talking about, but hey, I can sell you a heat pump, and that's the question, which is when you start from the beginning and you ask what is the best performing solar or heat pump, and then what is the most efficient, and then we answer the questions backwards, it will always lead you through the natural steps. And solar heating is critical to get right. So what you don't want is a poorly installed system on the roof, which is going to potentially leak over time. We don't want chlorinated water certainly up there. We don't want to damage the roof while we're up there. You got your health and safety. So solar actually is so much harder to install than a heat pump. Like, if we changed our business, we would install heat pumps because it's so easy. It takes you half an hour, you plug it in, you turn it on, right? So heat pump, very easy, simple. Solar heating, not easy. Performance, solar heating, incredible. Heat pump, pretty average, we'll get there in the end. And gas is very similar, where you can install it. It's not too easy to install. You do need a specialist to connect the gas, and then you plug it in, turn it on. So I hope that helps. Any other questions, again, details below. Send me an email, and then even send us some photos of your heating setup and give us some feedback. We actually love the feedback. All our customers with solar and heat pump as well give us great feedback. And we've got a couple of heat pump solar customers, and they regret putting the heat pump on. They're like, oh my God, if I had known now, and if I had listened to you, and when you said, you probably won't need the heat pump because when it's cold, you probably won't want to swim. And in fact, they don't swim, and they rely 100% on the solar. So those questions and that feedback is critical for everyone. And just remember, when you're installing a pool for the first time, you're not the first one to do it. And when you look at, like, we're specialists in this field. We clearly understand how to heat a pool. We understand how to do it down to the T, and we even have formulas for that. So good luck, and talk soon.